All right, today we're off to the rugged Yorkshire coast, to a place that is just steeped in mystery. Seriously, every single narrow alley, every hidden passage, they all have a story to tell. We're diving headfirst into the smuggler's labyrinth of Robin Hood's Bay. I mean, just look at it. At first glance, it is the perfect picture postcard, isn't it? You've got this charming fishing village that just kind of tumbles down a steep cliff right into the North Sea. It really does feel like a place frozen in time, all about that dramatic coastal scenery and those, absolutely breathtaking views. The famous architectural historian Pevsner, he just nailed it. He described it as this maze of steep little streets. And he's so right. The village isn't just on a cliff, it feels like it's been carved right out of it. You've got houses literally stacked on top of each other, creating this wonderfully chaotic three-dimensional puzzle. But here's the thing. What if all this incredible jumbled architecture, what if it wasn't just an accident of geography? What if this whole place was designed? A purpose-built machine for a thriving and a very illegal underground economy. Okay, so to really get our heads around this world of smugglers, we have to start up here. We're on the cliff top, in the much more orderly Victorian part of the village. This is where the authorities came in and tried, and spoiler alert, mostly failed, to impose a bit of law and order. So, the railway arrived, and with it came the railway workers, the navvies, right? And, well, let's just say they enjoyed a good drink and maybe a bit of a brawl. So what does the town do? They spend an absolute fortune. We're talking £1,500 back in 1886 on a brand new police station and jail. They were determined to show everyone they meant business. 2. That's the number, and that's the punchline. A local fisherman, Oliver Storm, he said that in its entire history, this super expensive, fancy new jail only ever held 2 prisoners overnight. 2! I guess the local crime wave just never really happened. And that contrast is it's perfect. Because just a few steps down the hill from that basically empty jail, a completely different world was buzzing along. A whole other system of, let's call it commerce, was operating in the shadows of those old, ancient alleyways. All right, let's head down. We're descending the steep main road now, right into the historic heart of the village. And as we do, it feels like we're stepping back in time, into the 18th century. We're entering a world that was literally designed to defy the law, not uphold it. You see, the village's location was everything. It was its greatest weapon. Imagine this. You're totally hemmed in by treacherous marshy moorland on 3 sides, and then you've got the huge North Sea on the 4th. It was a natural fortress. If you were one of the customs officers, the excise men, trying to police this place, well, good luck. It was an absolute nightmare for them. There's this incredible local saying, and honestly, it's not much of an exaggeration. They say that a bale of silk could get from the bottom of the village, right at the docks, all the way to the top without ever once leaving the houses. The whole place was engineered for secrecy. Think about it. All that contraband, tea, gin, tobacco, silk, it could all just move through this hidden network, completely invisible to anyone on the outside. So how on earth did they do it? Well, the village itself was their toolkit. It was ingenious, really. They built tunnels over the little streams, what they call becks, to create secret pathways. They knocked through the walls of cellars to connect whole rows of houses. Hidden passages, secret bolt holes. That wasn't special. That was just standard issue for pretty much every home. And you have to understand, this wasn't some secret operation run by a couple of shady characters. No. This was a community-wide enterprise. The whole village was in on it. So when the authorities came sniffing around, the whole village fought back. The women, the Bay wives, were absolute legends. They'd pour boiling water and stinky fish brine out of the upper windows onto the officials below. It gave the men just enough time to vanish into that labyrinth. But, the customs officers weren't the only enemy here. The village has always been in this constant, grinding battle with the sea itself. The coastline is really unstable, and houses were constantly being lost to erosion, just falling into the water. When you look at these 2 pictures, then and now, you really get a sense of both the fragility and the incredible, stubborn resilience of this place. Okay, so as we get down to the dock area, the story kind of shifts a bit. Because for all the exciting tales of smuggling, let's not forget the sea was also the source of an honest living. It was about fishing. It defined their entire lives, but it also brought death, all too often. And that shaped a really unique and sometimes very poignant local culture. And maybe nothing embodies that culture more than something called a ganzi. Now, this was so much more than just a heavy, warm woolen sweater. It was a fisherman's identity, literally knitted into the very fabric of his clothes by the women in his family, his mother, his wife. Each pattern was totally unique, a secret code, really.
And that code, it had a really grim but absolutely vital purpose. See, back then, long before modern forensics, if a fisherman was lost at sea and his body was recovered, maybe weeks later, it was often impossible to identify him. But the unique pattern on his ganzi, that told you which village he was from, which family. It was the only way to make sure he was returned home for a proper burial. It was a code born out of love and of law.
So yeah, the sea demanded a heavy, heavy price, but it also forged this unbelievable community spirit. Just listen to this story. In January 1881, a ship gets wrecked right in the bay during a monster blizzard. The Whitby lifeboat couldn't launch, so what did they do? 200 men from the village dragged the lifeboat 6 miles overland through 7-foot snowdrifts. They had to demolish garden walls to get it through. They launched it from Robin Hood's Bay, and they saved every single person on that ship. Just an absolutely incredible story of human determination. But you know, for all the amazing history we do know, the village still holds on to one great, big, unsolved mystery, and it's a question that has been bugging historians for centuries. Why on earth is it called Robin Hood's Bay? I mean, despite the name, there is absolutely zero verified historical evidence that the famous outlaw from Sherwood Forest ever even set foot in this place. So, where did the name come from? Well, there are a few really cool theories floating around. One legend says that this is where he kept his getaway boats for a quick escape from the authorities. Another idea, a bit more out there, is that the name actually comes from an ancient forest spirit, a Robin Hood figure from Old English folklore. My personal favorite, though, is the story that he fought off a bunch of French pirates here and then gave all their looted goods back to the villagers. The real truth? Nobody actually knows for sure. And maybe, in the end, that's kind of fitting, isn't it? This whole place is built on secrets and stories. It's a place where the landscape itself, the cliffs, the sea, the twisting alleys, it feels like it holds the memory of everything that's ever happened here. Geography wasn't just some obstacle they had to deal with. Now, because here, in Robin Hood's Bay, that incredible maze of cliffs and houses, that relentless sea, and that feeling of isolation, it didn't just shape the stone and timber of the buildings. It shaped something much deeper. It forged the very soul of the community, that defiant, resilient, and unbelievably resourceful character of the people who called this amazing place home.